the Attorney General a question too, President.
Sure.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Yeah, sure. If
could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Are you still asking about Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, come on. You're still asking about Jeffrey Epstein? Wow. The gaslighting is at new levels. I can't believe it. Wow. I cannot believe it. Of course, we're going to start off episode 158 of the Conscious Resistance Live this week, talking about the latest example of a Trump administration, Donald Trump himself, selling out his supporters. And in my mind, proving what I've warned about, what I warned Ian Carroll back in October 2024, what I've been telling all of you through my writing, my articles, my documentaries, my podcast, that Donald Trump cannot be trusted, that he's not this deep state, fighting the deep state, coming in to reveal the truth about Epstein and end the Federal Reserve and reveal the truth about 9/11 and the UFO disclosure and all kinds of stuff that so many people built up in their minds and so much hype was put into. And some of it by design, by people who are being paid either by, the U.S. intelligence agencies or community, or just by, right-wing influencers who want to get paid, and they'll sell their souls if it means they get a check. And so they'll blow smoke up your ass about Donald Trump. But in that, we just watched that clip, which, let's go ahead and pop the article on screen. As you heard there, Department of Justice, Donald Trump's Department of Justice says there is no evidence Jeffrey Epstein had a client list or blackmailed associates. That's like the big news that's coming out, right? And that's what led to that press conference that you just saw there, where Attorney General Pam Bondi and Donald Trump were asked about it by a journalist. And Trump, was made a big deal. I can't believe you're asking about Epstein. We've got floods in Texas. And hey, I'm in Texas. Some kids are missing and people have died. It's a tragedy. Yes. But don't try to play that game. I mean, Trump is such just a salesman, and I think a manipulator, a divider, trying to use, the appeal to the kids. We're here talking about the horrible kids who were drowning in the flood. Let's not talk about Jeffrey Epstein and the cover-up of abuse of children and young women, young ladies, young girls in some cases. Let's just, make a big huff about it. He's like clutching his pearls or whatever. And then Pam Bondi gives this whole garbage answer, because for those who couldn't hear the question clearly, what it was this journalist asking about two things, asking about the fact that Alexander Acosta, who was formerly in Miami, in Florida, as an attorney who was involved in Epstein's sweetheart deal back in 2005, the 2005 arrest, he ended up becoming appointed by Donald Trump as labor secretary during his first administration, which to me was a sign that this might be related, because we know, and those who are capable of not being a cult member around Donald Trump recognize that Donald Trump had a decades plus long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell, and many pictures and videos together, and articles about them discussing the relationship, and 16 numbers of Trump's in Epstein's black book, all these sorts of things. In my mind, if Trump was involved, but it appears at least probably knew some things, that Alexander Acosta, the man who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal originally, his sort of return favor was being put into a position of power, the labor secretary. Now, of course, during his time as labor secretary, he actually did give this interview. He gave a couple of interviews, actually, I believe, where he mentioned briefly, and it's only quoted, I haven't been able to find it on video, but it's only been quoted, saying that he was told to back off Jeffrey Epstein because he was connected to the intelligence community. This is during his confirmation hearings. Again, this is Alexander Acosta, former U.S. Labor Secretary under Donald Trump's first administration. During his confirmation hearings, he said that, he'd heard that Epstein was intelligence. And of course, that lined up with other things that myself and others have been reporting for years, because of Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, and his suspected and previously reported connection to U.S. and British intelligence, and then Epstein's involvement. And of course, things like the Mega Group, which is related to Israel, powerful Jewish financiers like Les Wexner. There's suspicion of the Mossad involvement. So that has long been suspected. And so the journalist asks Trump or Bondi to clear up, like, hey, you say there's nothing going on. What do you know about these intelligence connections? And she says, I don't have any evidence of that. But they also asked them about the surveillance video at the jail cell where Jeffrey Epstein allegedly killed himself. And we as a society collectively know we're in sort of like this state of psychosis or trauma, learned helplessness. But as a society, we know that we're being lied to. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. There's a reason that meme went viral, and that hashtag went viral a couple years back after Epstein was, we were told he killed himself in the jail. There's a reason why that became such a phenomenon that it became a joke on Saturday Night Live, unfortunately. And I've talked about this years ago, how it's unfortunate that it becomes just a meme and a joke on Saturday Night Live, but then we just kind of move on, and we as a society accept, like, yeah, we were lied to. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And then even if you kind of understand that, how many people take that thought process and go all the way with it and say, okay, well, if Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, that means somebody was allowed into this New York City jail where this guy, who we know is connected to a lot of powerful people, was being held and facing charges which could have revealed a lot of different things. Somebody had to have snuck into that jail or been allowed into the jail or paid one of the guards or something to kill Epstein if we believe he didn't kill himself, which a lot of people clearly do believe he did not kill himself. And that has been the suspicion for a long time. We were also told that shortly after that the tapes malfunctioned. At one point, we were told there was no recording from the jail cell, that the tapes malfunctioned, which is why I think it's interesting. Now, all of a sudden, they're showing us some footage that they're claiming is Epstein's cell, and it's like 11 hours of footage. And even that, there's a minute missing from it. And that's what the journalist was asking about. The second question he asked them, why is there a minute missing from it? And Cam Bondi gives this garbage answer of like, oh, I don't know. We got to look into it. The system was built back in 1990s. Ha, ha, ha. And apparently every day, 1 minute goes missing, right? So it's possible that this footage is of the jail cell that Epstein was in. And in that 1 minute that's missing, which we'll probably never see, something happened that we probably would need to see to understand the truth. Or it's not even Epstein's cell, and it's just some random footage of a jail cell, and they think that's enough to satisfy the people. And again, this is after we were previously told there was no footage at all, or this footage had been destroyed or lost or something of that sort. And yeah, so a reporter doing their job, asking about an issue that matters to Trump's base, MAGA, and even people that I totally disagree with, that I consider cult members, definitely still believed. And I haven't checked in with the QAnon crowd in the last 2 days, but I'm sure their heads are spinning trying to figure out a reason why Trump is doing this and make it make sense, because they were the ones that said there's going to be tribunals and there's going to be rounding up of people, Jeffrey Epstein, that was just the beginning, blah, blah, all this kind of stuff. I think that's been proven wrong. I'm sorry to say it again, but I told you so. This is you're not going to win the game. You're not going to win by playing politics. That's not how you win. That's not how you change the world. We have to stop playing their game. I mean, I just don't understand how people can understand Jeffrey Epstein and understand the depths of this and everything that we've just discussed here in 10 minutes and all that is written and all the work that I've done and Whitney Webb's book on Jeffrey Epstein and the network behind him and around him, and see that and understand that it goes up to princes and royalty and presidents and celebrities and powerful people, and to think that your vote is going to fix the system. It astounds me. Nevertheless, let's go back to some of these articles here. So as I said, it was being reported. DOJ says no evidence Jeffrey Epstein had a client list or blackmailed associates. So that was the first thing, is they say there's no evidence of that. They released this video footage that is controversial, and then Trump does this press conference, and as you can see here, CNN reported Trump gets upset with a reporter who asked about Epstein. And this is after this little two-page memo was released by the Department of Justice as part of our commitment to transparency. The DOJ and the FBI have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large number of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting the victims. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of this materials, and we will not permit the release of child pornography. Nobody was asking for child pornography. Come on. This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. I mean, wow, just think about that. Like, they're literally trying to just... And this is what the whole operation has been for so long, but the Trump people, the MAGA people, thought that they were going to get some justice, and they're literally just putting it all in a bow. I'm sorry for laughing. I hadn't read the full thing, and this is just insane. There's no client list. There's no evidence Epstein was blackmailing anybody, and there's no evidence to produce any charges against uncharged third party. So there's literally there's nobody else involved. It was just Epstein, no client list, and no blackmail. End of story. Consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. These include specific details such as victim names and likenesses, physical descriptions, place of birth, associates, and employment history. Dude, redact them. This is so stupid. If you follow my work on the Finders or the Utah ritual abuse scandal or any other sort of case that does involve abuse, they redact that information. And sometimes you get the worst of it, but you can put Jane Doe 1, victim, you can redact stuff. Come on, this is so stupid to act like there's names and places of birth and descriptions. We can't do anything about that, so we're not going to show you any of it. It would be justice to the victims if their real stories are known. I'm not saying we need to read every victim abuse case and get deep into this disturbing things, but knowing their real story is part of the healing. If we don't know the story and we just ignore it and hide it away, then there is no justice. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetrating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of these ends. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public with maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured examination of any evidence in the government's possession, it is the determination of the DOJ and FBI that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. There will be no more files. That's what they're saying right there. After a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Epstein committed suicide in his cell in New York on August 10, 2019. This conclusion is consistent with previous findings, including the August 19, 2019 autopsy. Of course, they don't talk about alternative autopsies that were performed. And it's consistent with the November 2019 position of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And June 2023 conclusions of the DOJ's Office of the Inspector General. The conclusion that Epstein died by suicide is further supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. A DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by the footage. The FBI's independent review of the footage confirmed that from this time, Epstein was locked in his cell around 10:40 on August 9th, 2019 until 6:30 a.m. the next morning. Nobody entered the site. During this review, the FBI enhanced relevant footage, and so there's a link to the footage, and that's it. So again, Epstein killed himself. There was no client list. There was no blackmail. There's nobody else to charge. And don't keep talking about these unfounded theories. Wow. Wow. I really just have to, like, before we continue on with this story, just... I can feel that. I feel for those of you out there who, even though I think it's naive and I warned it against it, fell for this idea that Trump was going to do something about this. Let's just hold space for that for a moment. That shit's rough. If you fell for that and you believed it, I'm sorry to tell you that you are just the latest person to be deceived, falling into the trap of thinking that a politician, and yes, Donald Trump is a politician. He is part of the so-called uniparty, the deep state. He serves them. He's just another political puppet like all presidents who are selected. You fell for that. Now let it go. Don't fall for Thomas Massie in 2028 or J.D. Vance in 2028 or Elon Musk's America Party we're going to talk about in a moment. Let go of the idea that politics is going to save us, and we'll all be better off for it. But I can feel that. I understand that many of you put your hope and faith in Donald Trump, and you really thought something was going to happen. Honestly, I don't know why, because, I mean, I have clips. I was looking at this yesterday. I shared clips almost exactly a year ago in June 2024. Trump gave this interview on Fox here. In fact, let me just go ahead and play it real quick.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Yeah. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there, because that was a weird situation, and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one. The other stuff I would definitely do the January 6th, because, beyond all of them.
So, did you notice that? 2 times he expressed hesitancy about releasing files related to Jeffrey Epstein. That's why I was telling people, like, look, you're all thinking Epstein files are going to come out. If you actually paid attention, Trump never promised that. So let's go back now. I want to show you on my website, theconsciousresistance.com, the reporting I've been doing since 2016 on Jeffrey Epstein. You can find this at theconsciousresistance.com, the front page, the home page. Look at our different categories. It'll be in the show notes, of course. The Epstein Network. And this includes my 2018 documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, where I went to Epstein's house the year before he was arrested in Palm Beach and filmed the opening scene outside of his gates, and was already drawing the conclusions of Donald Trump's relation to Jeffrey Epstein and the larger network and Les Wexner. I've interviewed Whitney Webb, of course, about her book, One Nation Under Blackmail. I've talked all about Ghislaine Maxwell, talked about Jean-Luc Brunel, the French connection to this whole Epstein network. We've interviewed, different people who have been investigating this, and I've been doing my own work since before Epstein was arrested and since before most people knew him. And of course, when the alleged suicide happened, I was reporting on that as well. And you can see here video from 6 years ago, the questions surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death. And I encourage you to go back through this. I have several videos on the Epstein-Trump connection. I have, videos about the Les Wexner connection, Dershowitz, and of course my interview with Bradley Edwards, which the right and MAGA like to use because they claim that it clears Trump of anything. I encourage you to go through this, guys. I've been investigating this for nearly a decade now, And all of this should be obvious. It should have been obvious that Trump wasn't going to save you and deliver these so-called client lists, because that is one thing that Trump's team is correct on. There was no Epstein client list. I've been saying this for quite some time now, that even that sort of meme of the client list it has been inaccurate, because we don't have a client list, and there never existed such a thing. There was a black book that had all kinds of people's numbers in it, including 16 from Donald Trump. There was flight logs. There was memos about visits and massages and things like that. Now, obviously, you could take those different names and start to piece together a potential client list. But the way it was sold to a lot of people, I think many people literally thought there's just like a list that's somewhere that says Epstein client list and it's in a file somewhere. That's not true. That just didn't exist. So it was kind of a straw man set up to fall down and be, debunked anyways. But we know for a fact, and I even shows a few clips that have been on the internet in my documentary, we know for a fact that the FBI said that they originally captured thousands of hours, if hundreds at least, if not thousands of hours of footage from the cameras that Epstein had in his island and in his different homes. Of course, he had the New Mexico ranch, he had Palm Beach, he had New York, other places. There's definitely footage of that somewhere, or it used to exist. But as I was telling people before Trump got elected with these fake promises, that if you actually thought that was going to happen, you're just being foolish, friends. If that evidence still exists, it's in some safe in the CIA's bunker, or the Mossad, or Israel Unit 8200 or something like that, or it's been destroyed because it's no longer useful. If it's still useful and they're still using it to blackmail people, then it probably exists somewhere. And guess what? That's probably why Trump is playing ball. It's so interesting to me. I never understood how people will say, well, Derrick, if they had evidence on that, the Democrats would have used it against Trump a long time ago. They would have exposed him. They tried to assassinate him. They tried to do lawfare and all this kind of stuff. And there's elements of it that are true. Of course, the assassination was staged, and I don't know what happened, but I know we weren't shown the truth. The point is that if they have blackmail on somebody, they're not necessarily going to use it. It's more powerful when you hang it over somebody's head and you get them to do what you want. Why would you just, waste that and just bring it out into the open unless you don't have to? That's why many people comply with things that maybe they said. For example, many of Trump's cabinet now, like Cash and Bongino, saying they're going to, get to the deep state and expose the corruption about Epstein and this and that. And then they get in there and there's a reality that hits. And my guess is that probably they are shown certain videos or text messages and made clear how much the intelligence networks have on them and can reveal about them and can destroy their lives in different ways. And then from there, they just do what they're told, at least to some degree. There's definitely something going on. But at the end of the day, the problem here is putting faith in these people and these politicians and thinking that they're going to save you, because Donald Trump's not going to save you, especially not when he was a buddy of Epstein's for a decade plus.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.